One of the comments I've heard repeatedly from people, I've asked virtually everyone, how are you finding the event? All the feedback's been very positive. One of the things I've heard a lot about is about how much it's grown year on year, and that must be hugely encouraging.
Yeah, well, we had just under 300 people. I haven't got the final number actually, but it feels like there was just under 300 people here. Last year we had 160, so I guess that's almost double. And yeah, so and getting on towards how much we have in the UK now for a European event. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess 100% growth or 80% growth, something like that. So yeah, really, really positive. And you know, just the quality of people, the different service providers we had here. Big, small, you know, people. Yeah, so yeah, it's been great.
It's been a star-studded lineup as well in terms of the keynotes. There's been some really interesting. I've been sitting in on some really interesting panels. It must be hard beforehand looking at the topics and thinking what's going to be of interest, what's of real value to our service providers, and when it pays off, it must feel pretty good.
Yeah, I guess that's why it makes sense for us to do this kind of event, because our sort of analysis background and being one of the leading consulting analysis companies in this world means that we've got quite good insight to what these people want to hear and what they're looking at. So that helps a great deal. But we're always learning, and you know, there's been some surprises today. I mean, I've seen some things that I would have thought this would be in the top things that people to go to, and you know, and haven't been, and other things I thought, oh, well, people wouldn't be so interested in that, and there's been lots of people, so it always surprises you, and we're trying to kind of learn. There's been some themes come out over here, you know, like mobility, which maybe it's been around a long time, but really that's come through strongly, so maybe we'll have to look at that a little bit more next year. But yeah, so there's been some interesting things definitely that have come through.
Before I let you go, for the final closing remarks and your final comment, I wanted to put you on the spot, and I did this to Dominic Black as well, your head of research. Yeah. What's been your particular event highlight? Whether it's a particular keynote you've seen, or a panel, or a surprise trend, what would you pinpoint as your highlight?
What has been my highlight? You've put me on the spot. Well, I think the highlight has been the interaction, actually. So you put on these events and you kind of hope that people will come, which is the first thing. But the second thing is you want people to interact with you. And I think the interaction we've had at the event, both with the speakers and the panels, but also around the event. So the great sort of feeling of sharing best practice and people quite willingly sort of saying what they're doing well and badly, you know, and sharing that. So I think that would be mine, would be really the interaction both within the event and around the event of the industry has been really what I've been is my highlight. Sometimes these can be sterile events, you know, people come and speak and there's no interaction around it and you go away. And I've just had so much interaction personally, but also within the event. So I think that's been my highlight.
You've been a very, very busy man, difficult to get hold of, mainly because you've been on stage the entire time.
Yeah, it's been, these are always busy getting organised, and it's bringing together everyone and people giving up their own time to come to these, so we're really pleased, and it's just when we're here, we're still running around, but I'm really glad that it's all come together. I think we've had some really insightful conversations on stage. From what I've seen walking around the show floor, everyone seems to be engaging with each other, which is what we aim to do with this. It's about putting great content out and people networking with the industry.
And I know a huge amount of background goes into the different tracks you put on, the different keynotes, the seminars, and a lot of that relates to research that you've done independently. Yeah. So I sort of wanted to gauge whether you think all of that has matched up with the expectations of the attendees and the vendors that have been here.
I think so. We just conducted some enterprise research where we've taken the opinions of 1,800 businesses across North America and Europe. And from that, every time we've been mentioning those stats and talking through those stats, they've all seemed to be resonating with the audience, which is great for us. And there's a lot more that we've got that we haven't shared, which is really good. And we've had a lot of interest in people wanting to really understand what the enterprises want to get out of this. So we're really glad that research has resonated. We've got some really good insight, and tying that into our service provider research has been really useful, of looking at what the service providers are selling and looking at what the enterprises actually want to buy and what they want to use. And there's a bit of a discrepancy between that. So I think it's going to be really interesting as we move on, helping our customers understand that what they're selling at the moment might not be the most optimal, and looking what they want to sell forward and going forward in the future.
And in terms of what that might be in terms of developing trends, how do you see that going forward in terms of what a service provider is going to need to look at in terms of both technology trends but also accommodating workplace trends that we've seen develop?
Yeah, so I think the workplace is definitely changing. Every report you see coming out is showing the workplace is changing. We're seeing more remote working. We're seeing jobs being lost to automation. Not right now, but in the future I expect the jobs, and from our research, a lot of the businesses we spoke to are looking at seeing job losses due to automation coming in, replacing some of those workers and replacing some of those roles, but also helping some employees do their jobs better, be more efficient, drive productivity. So the workplace is definitely changing, and I think from that we've seen technologies come out like team collaboration, which are helping employees communicate better, be more productive. Then when we go and look at our research, we're seeing actually some of those solutions that they brought out are probably at the start of that life cycle now, so they're starting to reach maturity, but there's still a long way for them to go. And looking at some of the other technologies coming out, I think there's other technology service providers need to look at. It's a very segmented market, and when we look at the difference between what the SME is demanding compared to what the large enterprises are demanding, they're two completely different product sets. Our recent CCA research showed that, the CCA's recent research, which we conducted with them, showed that actually a lot of the service providers who are targeting the SMB want to move into the mid-market. This big question is, are they going to have the right product sets to actually do that? Or are they going to have to start looking at other vendors, not so much as a platform, but other vendors to bring into that and other products to bring into that solution to make it a viable solution to bring up the market?
Yeah, that particular piece of research did yield some interesting findings, but as well as that, just with the bits of keynotes and seminars and panels, many of which you've been chairing, that I've managed to catch during the event, there's been some interesting trends that I thought the importance placed on integration in terms of applications has been huge, and that's going to have to be is that something you're seeing in your research, that service providers really are going to have to focus on that?
100% on that. I think it's not just people are focusing on it, but those who are doing it successfully are driving higher ARPUs across the board. I think integration is the way forward. Differentiation comes through integrations. So being able to integrate into certain CRMs, certain products, certain workflows can also enable new sales channels as well for you. Salesforce is a key one of those as well, by integrating into the Salesforce app store. So I think when we're looking at this, I think integration is going to be the way forward to differentiate. I think a lot of people need to work out how they're going to be able to do that, and how they can move that forward in the future. It's not easy in some cases, but I think it's going to be key for them to do that.
Before I let you go back probably onto stage at this point, I was hoping you might be able to pick out a particular event highlight, whether that's something you've heard or a particular discussion you might have witnessed or a keynote. And I realise I put you on the spot here because we didn't prepare for this at all. So if you could pick an event highlight, what would that be?
As much as I want to say the whole thing's been a highlight, I think for me the contact center panel was fascinating. I think I really enjoyed the interaction we both had from the audience and the panelists we had up on stage. It's rare to get that many kind of market leaders up talking about what's going on. We had a really good discussion, so I was really pleased with that. I think that was kind of my highlight. But also, I think one of my key highlights has been how much this event's grown from where we started and to where we are now. So just seeing this community come together is great. I'm glad that we can be a part of it and help facilitate these conversations, these interactions going forward.